In this lesson, we're going to learn two songs that only use A, D and E chords. Now I noticed when I was preparing material for these lessons that these two songs not only use the same chords, but they're both in a reggae style, so I'm also going to use this as an opportunity to teach you to play on the offbeat, which is one of the key components of reggae guitar. It also just adds another string to your bow as a guitar player, so let's dive in and see how it's done. The first song we're going to take a look at is Blondie's version of The Tide Is High. Now I know Blondie are more typically a rock band, but their recording of this song definitely leans quite heavily on the reggae feel, and the chords are super simple, so I quite like this one as an introduction to this style of guitar playing. So for The Tide Is High, we're starting with the capo on the 2nd fret, and the main progression is just a 2-bar loop, which consists firstly of an A chord in the first bar, and then the second bar is broken up into a D chord and an E chord. So we've got 4 beats of A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 of D, 1, 2, and 2 of E, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, E, 4. So all of the verses, choruses and the instrumental are all that chord progression apart from one part of the song, which is the end of the chorus where she sings the number 1 lyric. And when she's singing number 1, the number is on the chord D and the 1 is on the E. So you've got number 1, sometimes it's repeated, number 1, then we've got another bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, and back into the main progression. And that's all the chords in the song. So it's just that one repeating loop, and you've just got to keep an eye out for the number 1 lyrics at the end of the choruses. As I say, sometimes she just sings it once, sometimes it's repeated, so you just got to listen to the song a few times and get used to the structure. So let's have a chat about this offbeat rhythm thing now. So if you don't know what offbeats are, go and have a watch of the rhythm lessons in series 1 of my beginner's course, and that will explain all the terminology. But you should know that offbeats are when you play the ands in an 8th note rhythm. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if we just play the ands, we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now it can be pretty difficult to settle into this rhythm, especially at first when you're not used to it. So here's a couple of good ways to approach it if you're struggling. The first one is to count out the 4 beats and just do a down strum in between each one. So sit and practice going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then try it with the chords. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fact that you're saying the 1, 2, 3 and 4 out loud should help you avoid falling back onto the main beats and remain on the offbeat. You'll also notice that the sound of my chords are really short and sharp. It's this kind of sound. Not like this. So I'm not letting the chords sustain for a long time. Essentially what I'm doing is strumming down on the strings and then instantly resting my hand on the strings to mute them. So the shorter and sharper, the better. You might also find that it helps with your chord changes because you have a little bit of leeway to move the fingers around while you're pressing your palm on the strings and muting them. Another approach you can take is to actually do a muted down strum and then catch the offbeats on the up strum, which would sound like this. It's a little bit more difficult with this technique to make the chords sound quite as short and sharp as doing the down strums, but it still sounds pretty good in the context of the track. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a down strum, but I'm doing it into that muted sound. So as the pick hits the strings, my palm is touching the strings as well. So I'm just getting the sound of that percussive hit. And then when I do the up strum, I'm releasing the palm so I can catch the chord. So takes a little bit of muscle memory, that one, but again, by just aligning the down strums with the main beats and then catching the up strums on the off beats, it might help you align that rhythm. For the number one parts at the end of the choruses, I would probably stick to mainly just the single strums and let the chords sustain a bit more, because I think that suits that bit of the song a little bit better. You could even throw in some down strums at the very end to help build up to the main progression, but just make sure that when you do come back in with that main progression, you're definitely on the off beats and haven't fallen back onto the main beats. So that would sound like this. Then start building up on the E. Hopefully you can hear how that makes sense in the context of the track, and that is how you play The Tide is High. The other song that we're going to take a look at today is Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. Bit more of a reggae classic, this one, definitely one that everyone will know. We've got a couple of sections to deal with and some slightly longer chord progressions to remember, but still a super simple one to dive in and strum along with, so let's take a look. So for Three Little Birds, we don't need a capo for this one, and the song starts with an intro, which is basically just an A chord. So while those first few bars are happening, you can either just strum along with an A or wait for the lyrics to kick in. When the lyrics do kick in, we're starting with a chorus. Now the chorus only has 2 chords in, but they both go on for different lengths. So we're starting with 2 bars of A. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then when we hear the every little thing, that's when we move to a D chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to A chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a 4-bar progression that both starts and ends with A, so you have to make sure that you don't cut the A chord at the end short. So we're really playing A, D, A, like this. A, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you can hear where the melody sits over those chords, particularly the every little thing, which fits over that D chord, is quite a good indicator as to when to change chords. Next we have the verse section, and in this section all the chords only go on for 1 bar each, so the counting is a little bit easier, but we've got some longer chord progressions to have to memorize. So the first progression we're going to do is going to be A, E, A, D. So A, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. And the next progression is exactly the same, but we reverse the last 2 chords. So it's going to be A, E, D, A. So A, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4. And hopefully you can hear how the melody fits over those chords as well. So if I play them in full, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4. And hopefully just by hearing those chords, you'll be able to sing along a little bit with the words as well. So just like The Tide is High, you can approach the strumming for this song in the same two ways. So you can start just by trying to downstrum the offbeat. So if I use this over the verse progression, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So just making sure that you're only strumming on the ands, and if you can get that palm muting effect in as well, that'll sound pretty cool. Or the other way that you can approach it is by using the muted down strum followed by the offbeat up strum. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And both of those rhythms will work over the entire song, so just pick whichever one feels best to you and try and have a bit of a jam along. It only really goes between verses and choruses, this song, so the structure's super simple, but you've still got to make sure that you're playing the right chords at the right time. So stick the track on, have a jam along, and have fun with it. And that is Three Little Birds. So there are two reggae hits that you can play with just A, D, and E chords. Now, if you can nail that reggae offbeat feel, I think that's really helpful to make your guitar playing complement the style of the music. But if these do happen to be the first songs that you're attempting on guitar, it might be worth just making sure you get the chord changes in the right place first, and then adding some complexity to the rhythm later on. If you're struggling with any of the chords or any of the rhythm terminology in this lesson, go back and have a recap in Series 1 of the beginner's course. All the lessons are nice and organised on my YouTube channel page, so feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along. And remember, you can pick up some extra resources on my Patreon page via the link in the description. That's all for today though, I'll see you in the next song lesson.